So a couple quick tips. Both those are HGUC RX79s or ground types. Um, Neither one are fully painted. Both are just a little bit of German gray, a little bit of sky gray, and a little bit of red, and some panel lining. Of course, a couple decals on one, the other one's unfinished. Couple quick easy things to do, don't really need a lot, just some toothpicks, artist lofts, 0.03 millimeter pin, some model nippers, Exacto knife, and some toothpicks. And about the easiest way to do this, and it's the way I've done both these. That way they were just quick, simple, didn't like the plane just out of the box. And only one of them has been top coated, and that is the one on the left. The one in the back is, I'm still working and filling in some details. And then a new one to try and get it built real quickly. Do the backpack up, thrusters, just add some little details to it. Of course, you can add decals if you want to. Just kind of add a little more depth to the kit rather than straight plastic. And if you don't have an airbrush, or you just don't want to spend a bunch of time doing something, this is just quick, easy ways to do it. Here's kind of a half done, half not. And easiest way to achieve this is to take Tamiya Acrylic's German Gray, make sure the bottle's shook up really well, and because it's acrylic it will dry really fast. Either use it out of the cap or out of the pot, and go in and paint the bottom of it. And the nice thing about Tamiya Acrylic is you can use 91% rubbing alcohol to go clean it up, or you can use a toothpick. And you want to get a nice even coating in there. And of course you can go through and fill in some of the other pieces. And this way you eliminate brush strokes because it'll self-level. Set that off to the side and dry a little bit. And for the lower part of the shield, which is actually fairly easy to do. And remember, you need just enough that it fills in the space, because any extra is just going to get rubbed off. So the less paint you use, the better off it will be, because there are several different ways you can take it off. You can take it off by sanding off whatever's on the outside of a groove. You can use a toothpick to scrape it off. Sand it down very lightly with some 600 or 800 grit sand sticks. Exacto knife will work, but you got to be very careful. And of course, I already filled in this top piece right here on the shin. And to fill in above the foot, you're going to basically do the same thing. Get some paint on your toothpick. And you're just going to kind of guide it around like it's a brush. And if you get any extras, down here or whatever, just for grins and giggles, you can turn around. If you don't like it there, you can sand it off. It's not going to hurt anything. You can scrape it off with an Exacto knife. But when it's done and dry, it'll self-level and it'll come out like this. Now the hard part to do is on the chest. That was hand painted with sky gray and German gray. The vents have sky gray around them, which is really easy to do. And another thing I forgot to mention is alligator clips. Great for airbrushing, great for hand painting things. Remember, you don't need a lot of paint. You need just enough to cover the surface. And no, you don't have to be an expert. But just some time and some patience. Sorry if I'm not getting this in the frame. It's kind of hard to work around a cell phone because that's all I got. But it'll level itself out as it dries. Set that aside for now. And being acrylic, this stuff dries pretty quick. It's actually a hybrid acrylic. What their exact formula is, I don't know, but I think there's a little bit of a lacquer base to it. Or there may just be an alcohol base, and it may just be an alcohol-based acrylic. I'm not 100% sure. But I mean, this stuff's pretty resilient. Now, as far as painting the chest goes, you're going to need, of course, German gray and sky gray. And as far as the point on a toothpick goes, it's not fine enough to get in there. So what you can do is you can sand it down a little bit to a finer tip. And it takes time. Remember, you don't need a whole lot. But there's the inside of it. Any little bit extra on the outside, like right here, you can turn around and clean up before you add the sky gray to it. You can go in and fill things in, like on the bottom of the feet and things that most people would take the time when they're airbrushing. They'd mask them off, or you know, whatever they choose to do. I've done it once. It was a pain. But see, you know, just clean it up a little bit, and you know, need to go back around the edges, but other than that, just add some more detail to the kit. It's pretty simple, pretty easy. As far as the inside of the thrusters go in a backpack, you can do whatever color you want. Red just seems to be kind of a, well, it's not really a red per se, but it's more of a reddish brown. Same thing, same technique applies, just a little bit of paint. And running around the inside. You can go down as far in as you want. You don't even have to do this step if you don't want to. And I know it's kind of hard to see, and I apologize for that, but when you're working on something that's down in a hole, it's kind of hard to get down in there. You just go around, paint the inside of it. And if you get any on the edges, you can either sand it off or take an Exacto knife blade, scrape it off, whatever. Whatever is easier for you, whatever you have available. And see what's on top here. Just be sanded off or scraped off with an Exacto blade. It's not too hard, nothing fancy. One thing I will say, and this is just my suggestion, is when cutting out parts, if you have a piece where it's connected to the sprue and it's pretty thick, cut it off a little beforehand. Some people do, some people don't. I do. I hate sanding. Go through with a good pair of cutters. And this also helps eliminate stress marks in the plastic. And cut a little bit off at a time. And you come back with sandpaper or sand stick. Smooth it out. Get rid of the nub mark. And if you wanted to, you can come back in, polish it up. It's actually shinier than the regular plastic when you're done. I mean, just simple stuff like that, some people don't take the time to do, and that's fine. I mean, it's your kit. You do whatever you want, whatever's easier for you. I mean, you can spend several hours, several days, several months on a kit. It's all what makes you happy. And a lot of people forget that, and they get caught up in, mine's better than yours, or, I won this trophy at this contest, or, it's about what makes you happy. It's about the product you want to turn out. Now, as far as going back, and you can see it's actually pretty dry. Take a toothpick. And you don't want to leave it overnight to dry, because then you will be fighting to get it off, and at that point you might as well use rubbing alcohol. And you can go down inside there as far as you want, or you can leave it out here. Personally, I like to clean all this up as much as possible, and I'm sorry, I know it's hard to see, but this can be applied to any kit. I mean, I don't know about any paint. I know Tamiya's acrylic works really great for this because of the type of paint it is. This is just my personal preference. You know, yours may be whatever you have handy. I've seen people use enamel for this, but one, acrylic's widely available, and two, it's just the cleanup's a lot easier. And the smell is nowhere near as bad. I will say, if you're going to use alcohol on a kit, the best to use is 91% with acrylic, at least for Tamiya's. Remember, different paints react differently to different things. As far as removing Tamiya acrylic, I've had the best luck with 91% rubbing alcohol. It's cheap. You can get it anywhere. If you got a really stubborn spot, or you're in a tight spot, just carefully take your knife It doesn't take a lot of pressure. But you can go back in there and get some of the harder to reach things, like right there. I don't know how well you can see that, but and it's gone. This has been on for about 2 days because I completely forgot about it. This was a last minute decision. If you're careful enough, you can go back and just use your Exacto knife to scrape the paint away. Like I said, you really don't need any pressure at all, because if you go too far, you'll cut into the plastic and you'll leave a gouge. You don't really want to do that. It just takes some practice. As far as panel lining goes, it's pretty straightforward. You know, I've already used Tamiya's panel line accent black, but these work pretty great. If you smear it, you can clean it up real easily. You know, even just panel lining a kit goes a long ways. You know, and anything worth doing is going to take some time. I didn't get it right the first few times I tried it, but I still don't have it right now, but it's getting there. And as far as cleaning up with sanding it, you can just go right over it. And I wouldn't use too high of a grit, but you know, 600-800 grit sanding sticks, you know, whatever you got available to you. And I'm no expert. I've done my share of airbrushing and painted kits, and anymore it's just the lazy way. Too much setup time and everything. It's about dry, but for the most part it is. Like I said, on the bottom, if it goes over the edge, no big deal. Clean it up with your blade, just lightly along it. You don't need really any pressure. It's all cleaned up now. And then for like along here, you can do the same thing. Like I said, I'm no expert. I just tinker anymore. Just about having fun. Now, you can do this one of two ways. You can go back and use your knife and just kind of scrape it off. You can use a toothpick. You don't want to shove it down in the groove, but you want to put a little bit of pressure and it just cleans it right up. And I will tell you, I have noticed there is no consistency in the holes on this kit, on any of them that I have built whatsoever. As you can see, this one's bigger than this one, and I've even sanded that side down. So I mean, it just depends on the kit you're doing. And the one cool thing is, and I'll admit this, is after you flat coat it, which is what's been done to this one over here, but not to that one, you can turn around and you can take chalk pastels and weather it. You can buy weathering powders. You can use those. Really, chalk pastels are pretty cheap. The thing with weathering a kit, it's really hard to top coat it after you've done it because you don't want to lose what you've done. But on to finishing the chest. So you need just a little bit and get quite enough. And it's almost like you're using a pen. And if it's not perfect, it's not perfect. I'm not perfect. First time I did it this way, it took me about 5 tries before I got it on there. You know, it's just another way to add detail instead of using stickers. Well, it's just short, sweet little stuff that can make a lot of difference to a kit. You know, you can go as far as to paint the inside, if I can get it off. Oh. You know, so if you want to have it open, painted the upper thighs, you know, just added some little stuff to it and just top coated it. I don't remember for sure where I got the decals from. I know they were out of another set. I just don't remember what it was. But hopefully this will make some things easier. Gives you a way to add detail to a kit without spending a bunch of time. It's quick, it's easy cleanup. You know, you're not spending a bunch of money. You know, 3 things of paint, an Exacto knife, some cutters, and some toothpicks. And, you know, if you just want to buy sandpaper at whatever store, or you want to buy some, you know, I've got Squadron, I've got sand sticks from Hobbytown, I've got all different kinds. Doesn't really matter, as long as they're fine grit, you'll be good. And it's pretty straightforward. You know, real easy to do. You know, go through and do little details on here, and then come back and scrape them off. Like I said, some of this stuff's been on here for a few days because I forgot about them, so paint gets kind of hard. At that point, you can cheat. Some 91% rubbing alcohol, which is great to keep around, especially using Tamiya Acrylics. Just barely damp. And very lightly. I still had too much on there. And in fact, you can get some neat weathering out of doing it this way too. So since the leg sits like this, you got it wet enough, you could actually streak it down, which it's hard to see on there. But remember, weathering streaks, everything's going to go down, most generally in a vertical pattern, unless it's at a particular angle all the time, and then suddenly moves from a horizontal position to a vertical position. So, I mean, pretty easy stuff to do. Probably one of the hardest parts are these surfaces right here, where there's an edge on 3 sides and then it's opened up there. You can go through, you can scrape the top off either with Exacto knife or sand it off, and then you can sand off the side. You can use alcohol. Just be really careful with the alcohol, because if you have too much on there, it's just going to bleed into details and pull the paint out of there too. You just want it barely damp. And as far as sanding it goes, you don't need a lot of pressure, just nice and easy. Just don't leave it on for days at a time and forget about it unless you're done with it, because it can be a pain to get back off unless you use alcohol, and you just got to be really careful. Now, another thing you can do, and I've done this to the other two, you go in here and this can be whatever. I mean, you can use metallics, you can use flats, you can use, whatever you want to use. But for grunt suits, German gray, neutral gray, light gray just kind of seems to fit better. Sorry, I'm trying to keep it in the light and also where I can see it, and for you to see it too. It's all personal preference. And you can either paint the inside lip, or you cannot. I mean, it's just whatever you want to do, however far you want to take it, however far you're comfortable with taking it. If you want to push it a little bit, go right ahead. I mean, it's whatever you want to do. Just and just let it dry. There's what it looks like done, except that's got dirt and stuff all over it from setting. Need to go back and finish cleaning this up. There's a better example. One thing I will suggest is don't go buy Krylon. Stay away from Krylon. Do not use their clear coats, their top coats, whatever you want to call them. Stay away. They have a tendency to not want to dry. That kit on the left, and then also sorry. This strike I did are still wet after almost a year. I can still leave fingerprints in the top coat. It was fully painted. I've got to re-strip it now and repaint it because I used Krylon clear coat. I used their matte on both kits, and I will never do it again. I will spend the extra money. I will buy either Mr. Hobby, or I will buy the can Tamiya top coat, or I'll buy Tester's dull coat. Just stay away from Krylon. That's just my personal suggestion, my personal opinion. They're an oil-based paint. They're not really the greatest. I mean, as far as, you know, doing outdoor stuff, yeah, that's fine. But as far as working on a model kit, do not use them. I've ruined 2 kits and finally gave up. Thought, okay, it's been several years. Airbrush this. I used Tamiya's white, Tamiya's red, Testers, Aztec blue, and 3 different tones of gray: sky gray, neutral gray, and light gray. And then clear coated it in Krylon and completely screwed up. And I will never do it again. That's why I suggest you don't use it either. So anyways, that's just a short little bit. If you want to see some more of what you can do with just some toothpicks and some paint, let me know. Be happy to post it. If you want to see some airbrushing videos, be happy to do those too. Decals, just whatever it is, let me know. Thanks.